The script itself actually is what drew me. Unlike a lot of people, I didn't have a lot of knowledge about what had gone before. I just read the script really fresh, which is kind of a great way to do it, because then you come without a lot of baggage and just have a reaction. And I then afterward learned about Anne of Green Gables and what it meant to a lot of people.
I loved the canvas on which it was all played out, and the fictional reality of it. I liked the script, I liked the character. I liked the idea of working with Kevin, and I loved going back to Canada, because my mother was Canadian. That was wonderful for me to go back and shoot in an environment that is so beautiful.
It's been great. I had heard a lot about him. I was a huge fan of the Anne of Green Gables movies growing up. So to have the chance to work with him has been really nice, and he just knows exactly what he wants. He has a really clear vision, and I always like that in a director.
I mean, it's really fun to get to play someone else, especially Anne, because she's such a great character. I mean, I'd watched all the previous series, watched them millions and millions of times just for fun, and I loved it so much, and I'd read the book, and I felt really close to Anne, so it was so much fun to play.
It was intriguing. I mean, it was such a different take on Anne, and it opened up all kinds of other characters and introduced me to my own Hepzibah, who was such a character, and such a nasty character.
It was an exhilarating experience, really. I think making a period film is always a highlight for any actor. I really think it's something that you look forward to. You experience life in a different way. You really do. You experience the life of a character in a different way. Just, wearing a corset every day.
What I loved was the idea of this little girl who had become an icon, really. The character of Anne as a little girl, of what she would become. One of the things about her as a child was her openness, her complete nakedness in terms of her emotions, and how that would translate into an adult Anne, because you couldn't kind of maintain that same sort of innocence that she had, but at the same time, it's the same person.
I think the story of her and her ultimate acceptance as to her past and how she used it to write, and the idea of having struggle basically create art. I'm not a person who would say it takes struggle to make art, but the way this character has evolved, the past that we have to not only forgive, but having allowed it to happen on some level, contributes to how you express yourself in your life later.
I think her struggle is kind of the struggle that we all have, which is identity, figuring out where home is inside yourself. And that's what's ultimately touching about the little Anne not belonging to anyone and not belonging anywhere, and translated into the adult Anne who finally figures it out. And that was great. It was really interesting.
I think the hardest thing was making sure I got the emotion right of what Anne would be feeling, the difference between being really sad about something or being angry, like just going between all the different range of emotions Anne goes through and all the experiences. So it was just getting the emotion to a good place, I think.
I prepared mainly by dealing with the script in great detail with Kevin. We went through it really delicately and completely, and he was so open to my ideas. It was a real beautiful experience for me, and that pretty much gave me everything. Once I knew what he wanted and he knew what I was thinking, and it was all attuned, then it was just a question of the regular internal work that you do as an actor, where you find it inside yourself.
I had to do a lot of homework for Nellie, in terms of the politics of the time as well, and the period. She's an early feminist in many ways. What was the turning point for me was losing a husband and child. That's a huge turning point. And everything since then has been colored by that. So that was a part of my life that I had to concentrate on in looking at the backstory. What makes her who she is today?
Well, of course, you read through the script a number of times to kind of get a handle on the person and the relationships with the other characters in the film. I think Anne comes between Hepzibah and Mrs. Thomas. I think that's what really aggravates Hepzibah. She doesn't like this. She doesn't like the child to begin with, and that she would find favor with Mrs. Thomas is just simply beyond her belief. She's a real nasty bit of business and an old maid spinster, and I adored playing her.
And I would bring what Megan Follows did, and then I would also think about, well, Anne's younger now too, and so she maybe hasn't had as many experiences. I'd think about it and bring something that I thought should be part of the younger Anne. I mean, I really admire what Megan Follows did in the first series, and I wanted to make sure that people would recognize the similarities, but also I didn't want to do everything the same, so I tried to create a balance.
Well, I think my character contributed to her adult security. She grew up with such a dire background that when she met my character, she was loved for one of the first times. And my character also trusted her. If I was sick or something, I would go to her and ask her please not to share that I would rely on her to help me.
What people identify with is basically her goodness as a human being, but also her struggle because she had such a rough beginning to figure out who she is and to figure out her place in the world.
She had such a difficult struggle in her early life, and she pulled herself up by her bootstraps with these other characters who came into her life to help her, that they identify with the struggle they possibly might be having.
She's always been, let down, or she's always sort of been in an imaginary world and has had a rough childhood, and so I think she tries to make up for it with her personality.
For me, to be able to make this film, to be in this film, was just almost a dream come true. To make a period film and to make a film about Anne, I mean, just, and to be able to ride horses and do all that stuff that you just love to do, I love to do personally in life, it was magic. It was pure magic.
I mean, what is more fun for an actress than playing a really nasty person? I mean, you can just let loose all those things that you've repressed and you know that you shouldn't ever do, and the things you should never say, you can just let fly, and it's wonderful.
Well, I loved the books. I'm a big fan of the books. I love the movies, so just to be a part of almost Canadian history like that.
I've done what me as someone who loves Anne so much, I've done what I thought she would do, and I tried very hard to bring everything that people love about Anne into it. There are different takes on Anne, and she can be played many ways, just as the story can be written many ways. There could be many things that happened before Green Gables, and this is one take. I hope it'll be loved as much as the first series.
It helps me see that I could yet again play a period piece and get away with it. I'm kind of modern, but I could put my demeanor into 100 years ago. And the whole idea of being in that period time, it felt like I was going home to some extent. My childhood reflections came back to me every day. I think he's very good at continuing his vision. So beautiful. What a production qualities there are in this movie. It's stunning.
I didn't have a lot of first-hand knowledge of the effect of Anne on people, and I'm glad, because it would have been a pressure, and I really wanted to approach it more innocently and purely than that, trying to match up to something in terms of people's expectations versus just something that I feel innately about the character. People think that acting is lying. I've had people say it to me, oh, you must be a good liar, you're a good actor, and I think, no, that's bad acting. Good acting is telling the truth. And it's getting to a place of the truth about the character. There's this sort of zone where it's happening to you instead of you making it happen. You'd love to live in that zone, but you can't. But when you're lucky enough to get to those places in acting, and if I'm lucky in a film, it'll happen 4 or 5 times maybe, you can't make a mistake. all the details are there. You're not thinking about that. You're just there in this truthful place, and it's this place of kind of openness. It just was in the script, really. It just was peeled away slowly in the script that finally she comes to this place. And it's not a big revelation, it's just she realizes it, that who she is, and doesn't mean she won't struggle, doesn't mean she won't have troubles, but somehow they'll be of her making rather than someone else's making. And it was a great journey. It's a great journey.